Hey everyone, another interview. This time I'm introducing you guys to my personal astrologer. I've looked everywhere for one, and she is literally the best, Priscilla. We have a kids' book out together called A's for Aries, which you should be getting a royalty check soon.
Cool.
And I just wanted to talk to her about astrology. A lot of people don't really realize this, but the astrology that I talk about is not the kind of astrology that astrologers talk about. I mean, it's all based on the same thing. But just because you're an astrotheologist doesn't mean you know shit about how to read charts. And just because you're an astrologer doesn't mean you know anything about astrotheology. So me and Priscilla have been just kind of educating each other,
Mm-hmm.
going back and forth. So I've made you do this a bunch of times on different podcasts, but I'm going to make you do it now. If you could just tell your story, how you got into it.
Okay. Um, so originally growing up, I would watch the news with my mom, and I am Hispanic background. So my mom would watch the Spanish news channel, and they always had a segment of an astrologer. His name was Walter Mercado, and he would come out all like Piscean, you know what I mean? All dressed up, makeup, very mystic looking. And that really intrigued me. So this is how I got into astrology, because he would do all of the signs, the sun signs, and I would wait for Scorpio before I would go off to bed. My mom told me really young what my sign was, being born October 25th. So that's where it started, but I didn't really grow back into it. As a kid, I would always gravitate towards horoscopes or astrology books or the mystic stuff, you know what I mean? But I didn't really get into natal charts and like deep astrology until around my Saturn return. That's where it sparked it all back up again. So I was like 29.5 years old, for those out there who don't know when that starts. And
Explain what a Saturn return is, real quick.
okay, so a Saturn return. So basically, all of the planets in space, when you're born, they're at a point exactly at your time. And this is called your astrology chart, and or natal chart, however you want to look at it. And so Saturn is the point, a Saturn return is the point where it was at your birth. And it takes Saturn 29.5 years, give or take, to orbit back into that position. And so Saturn being the disciplinarian, father time, the ruler of matter, which is
Chronos.
yeah, Chronos, exactly. So I think what's that? Is that Greek, Chronos?
Mhm.
And then the Roman god, I'm not sure who it would be. But yeah, so the mythologies all play a part into it. And Christianity kind of has its source in there too. It's just about really understanding the characters and who plays what. But yeah, so when Saturn comes back to that point, it brings it takes something away from you, but it's in a sense where it's supposed to bring you wisdom afterwards. So it's more about tangible things that are needed
It's
versus
like a
things that
rebirth,
expire.
almost.
Excuse me, I didn't hear
Like
you.
a rebirth.
Yes, like a rebirth. So that's kind of like Pluto energy, which is funny because Pluto used to be a satellite moon to Saturn, so it kind of does the same thing. But Pluto's more so transformation, and Saturn's more so about like endings that have to end because they don't serve the purpose in
Yeah.
your life anymore.
So
So
just so you
sometimes
guys know, real quick, just so you guys, sorry to interrupt, but just so you
you're fine.
guys know, real
Go ahead.
quick, in the Bible, when Jesus disappears at 12 on his 13th year, that's when he gets bar mitzvah. Okay, that's when he becomes a man. He comes back at 30. Why? Because the Jewish religion has roots in Saturnalia worship. Okay, Saturn was a lot closer. Okay, if you go to Google and you type in when was Saturn discovered, they'll tell you 1610 by Galileo, which is horseshit. Okay, because everybody that knows anything knows about the ancient Saturnalia worships. Okay, you even know that we have a Saturn day, which is the Jewish day of rest.
Saturday.
Okay, so Jesus comes back at 30 because Saturn comes back because the Jews have ties to Saturnalia worship. But anyway, continue with your story.
Yeah, I'm born on a Saturday too, so I have heavy Saturn influence. Um, which in a way I like that because it's about wisdom, even if it's painful, experiences and learning. But so you look at it as father, that's why it's father time, because a father is more so like the disciplinarian in the home. And like, it's like when your dad comes home, everybody straighten up, you know what I mean? So this is what happens when Saturn returns at the 29.5 point of your age. And so when that happened to me, it sparked up some separations between me and my ex, and it was really devastating. So I kind of went on this like soul search, right? And I'm like, I need to figure out what life is. And I was already really big into the whole Hebrew Israelite stuff. I was going through the loops like everybody else when they're going through their awakening. So I kind of had awakening way earlier, influenced by my brother when I was like 21. But I didn't really get really deeply into it until my Saturn return. And that's when I really started researching, and I found astrology in the Bible, in the book of Enoch. And I got the missing books of the Bible, which are the apocryphal books. I think it's what it's called, the Apocrypha. And so I what I did is I ordered a 1611 King James Version Bible, one of the last Bibles to have the Apocrypha in there. And I learned that again through the whole Hebrew Israelite belief. And I just started deep diving. And when I found, I think it was in Ezekiel or something about the wheels within wheels or something, that really sparked up so much for me, especially trying to understand, like, why is Enoch only mentioned twice? Where did he go? What happened? What do you mean God took him? So I was like, I need to like deep dive, which is when I ran into you in that astrology group. When I saw what you were saying, I was like, oh, this guy understands the astrology in the Bible, which is, how we connected. But yeah, so that is really when I got deeply into astrology and how I ended up where I am today. So
very cool. Very cool. So, I mean, you've been instrumental in my work. We're coming out with, so my 9th book is going to be my last book, guys. I'm going to wrap everything up, mostly because there's nowhere for the story to go. And you'll see that at the end of the book. 7 are out, 8's coming out Christmas, like around then. And then I have to write the 9th one, which won't take long. But no, Priscilla helped me with the kids' book. She gave me all the astrology behind it. We're gonna follow it up. So the kids' book is for 6 to 11-year-olds. It's called A is for Aries. Everyone that gets it loves it. Okay, it's an amazing, cute, adorable little astrology book for kids.
Yeah.
We're gonna follow it up with a 12 to 18-year-old, where we're going to describe. It's kind of like you have that kid's book growing up, and then when you get a little older, you'll get the second book. This is when you start to understand things.
Yeah,
astrology.
Because the first book is the basic sun signs when you're born. So the second book, what we want to elaborate on is how the natal chart comes in and the rulers of these, sun signs and where all the positions are of all the planets. Right. That's where it gets really deep. And now you get a whole astrological makeup of who you are on an energetic level and your path and, your story that you were born into, basically.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's go over some keywords then.
Okay.
I don't know if you have any of them written down, but I don't.
I have a lot of stuff written down, and then some stuff I'm like, I'm just going to go off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Go off the top of my head, there's
I'm better at that than trying to get all technical,
Right, because everybody knows the 12 sun signs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's things like the asteroids, or Algol, or Lilith, or Chiron, or the north and south nodes, and this and that. So if you could just explain what those are to people, because I think some people on my channel have already gotten readings. Okay. And it would just be interesting too, because I like to learn that too.
Okay, so the first thing we should start off with is like the sun signs, like how everybody understands the sun is the day that you're born. But what that means is that is your vitality. This is your energy force. This is your ego. This is what what you're excited about or what excites you inside, because it's the sun. It's what highlights you. Mm-hmm. And then you have a moon sign when you're born. So all of the planets in the sky are somewhere in your astrological chart, and each and every last one of them means something. So the moon represents your inner world. It's your emotional world. It's the deep aspects of you that you don't share to anybody unless you're, at home where you're comfortable. Which is why also the moon in astrology rules the 4th house. The 4th house represents the home, also represents mother. Moon also can represent mother. So it's how you nurture. It's let me go back. So the moon represents mother and how you nurture, but there's also the asteroid Ceres. And Ceres has an association with Virgo and Scorpio. And both are about how you nurture yourself after you learn the nurturing from your mother. So they all kind of go in together as well, which is why I believe asteroids are so important in astrology. Some astrologers use them, some don't. Mm-hmm. So besides the moon, you have your rising sign, which is also
known as the ascendant, right?
Yes, the ascendant. Well, the rising sign is the sign in the house, but the ascendant is the point of when you came out and at what degree it was when you were born. And this is the sign behind, the sun, when the sun is about to come up in the sky. So this identifies your identity. It's about how you are seen to the people at first impression. It's also about who you really are. I look at the first house as because it's also the physical body. So it's really like who you are. I believe the first house, the rising sign, is more who you are versus your sun sign. Your sun sign is like what you're striving to be, what sings to your ego, what, you know what I mean? What brightens you up inside. But the rising is like how you're seen in the world, and how some people call it the mask that you put on. So I guess you can look at it that way, because the sign would be the mask that you're presenting yourself in, the vibration. So all of this is vibrational. Everything is energy. And if we understand that concept, then we understand like there's also a vibration harmonic behind it. So everybody's vibrating at a different frequency, which is why everyone's different. You know what I mean? And so when we bring in these charts, it's also like, it really like shows how it could be so different person to person to person. There's so many dynamics, millions and billions. That's why there's so many stars. You see what I'm saying? So, and if we look at it like that, we're all stardust. So we come from these elementals. So again, you have your rising sign, you have your sun and your moon sign. And then we get into the other planets. So, we have Mars, which is how you action out. It's your drive. It's also how you present your anger. It's your frustration. It's the planet of impatience. It rules Aries, co-ruler of Scorpio. And that's how you maneuver in the world. That's how I like to look at that. And then you have your Mercury sign. Mercury is your mind. It's your intellect. It's how you learn, how you communicate. And again, that can be in any sign. So we are so many fragments of these energies. That's why it's not okay to just be like, oh, this is my sun sign. This is who I am. But society is really tied into that, like deeply.
Right, especially if you're a cusp, right? Because then you have blended energies anyway.
You do, but then again, if we're looking.
By the way, you're a cusp Libra, aren't you?
I am. I'm on the 25th. So, and then what's crazy is my house is intercepted, my 7th and my 8th, which is Libra and Scorpio. So I already have, and I have my South Node in Libra there. So I have so much Libra past life energy that merges with my Scorpio sun. So it's pretty interesting. But which makes sense why you and I get along,
right?
Because you're a Libra sun. But what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying.
No, it's okay. We were just going over the sun signs. I think you were up to Mercury.
Yeah, Mercury. Okay, so that's how you learn, how you communicate. Rules Gemini and Virgo. One's an air sign, one's an earth sign. So that's how we get deeper. There's different meanings between both. They hold a different vibration, but almost the same type of flow. You know what I mean? And then you have, what am I missing? Venus. Venus is how you love. It's also representative of values and money. It talks about relationships as well, because it rules Libra, which is relationship, but it also rules Taurus, which is materializing. It's it's your stability, being an earth sign. So Venus is also feminine, which I find interesting, because women are so like about romance. So it makes a lot of sense. And then what rules men is Mars, because Mars is masculine energy. It's about, I'm going to go to war, I'm going to conquer, I assert myself, and that's masculine energy. Of course, this is where it gets interesting, because it's not assigned to just any gender specifically. You know what I mean? It does go between people. Like there's masculine and feminine energy in these planets. A lot of the planets are considered more so masculine, but then you have the asteroids, which are feminine, especially the 4 goddesses, which is Vesta, Palos, Athena. I hope I'm saying that right. And then we have Juno, and what's the other one I'm missing? Vesta, which is a dwarf planet. This is where I wrote this down. Palos, Ceres. Yep. So those 4 asteroids are very, very important, and they weren't even discovered until like 1800s, really. But they're an asteroids that lay in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. And I think because of the gravitational push between them both, they're not considered planets, because something about the push, it like makes them dwarf planets or whatever.
Mhm.
But yeah, so going back to the signs and the planets, we have Venus. After Venus, we got what, Saturn, the outer planets. We have Saturn, Neptune, Uranus. These are more so. We have Jupiter too. These are more so how they. The energy with them is more so collective. So this is generational planets. They deal. You've got some that are generational and some that are collective, and they deal with the rest of us on a more in the outer world. When you're out here, dealing with people, going to work, that's when those will show up more. The first initial planets, Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, Mercury, these are personal planets. They affect us more so on a personal level. They're how we function in the world. And then the outer ones is how you mix that with with the society, with people. So yeah, astrology is deep.
Cool. So we'll get into all the outliers like Lilith and all that kind of stuff in a few.
Okay.
Can you share for the audience, because the 9 planets, and I always talk about the 9 planets because Pluto is a planet, because when you're doing astrological work, it has heavy implications on your personality, right?
Yeah.
So, but back in the day when the Bible was written, there were only 7 planets known at the time. And one of them was the sun and the moon. Can you list the other ones?
So sun and moons, I call them more luminaries, but yeah, planets. Sun, moon, you've got Mars, Mercury, Venus, and what's the last one that I'm missing? Saturn was involved there, because I think Saturn was known in that time.
It was a lot closer.
Yeah, and the planets that I think they discovered later on are Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. But Pluto has gone between dwarf, being a planet, being a dwarf planet, not being, they don't know how to make sense of it. So this is how I look at it. I believe the reason why they weren't in the Bible, they weren't prevalent back then, is because of evolutionary aspect. They weren't, like you said, they weren't seen. We couldn't see them. And they weren't relevant in that time yet. We're in a time where they matter now. We're in the age of Aquarius. This is why Uranus is around. You know what I mean? And Pisces is Neptune now, which Jupiter used to rule Pisces. But with this evolution and the more that we learn, it makes more sense to tie Neptune to Pisces. You know what I mean? And then you have Pluto, which is why, same thing, it was assigned to Scorpio because Mars used to rule Scorpio, but then they, that constellation, that energy is so deep, so vast that they were able to assign Pluto to it to make more sense of that type of frequency. So
another question.
Okay.
From my personal experience, I'm friends with a lot of pure Aries men in the sun. And they're like warriors. They've been to war. They are
usually martial artists or like athletes and things of that nature. Absolutely.
So why are? Can you explain why Aries men and Taurus, Scorpio women seem to be the most like strong personalities? And if you disagree, that's fine. But if that's what I found in my life.
Okay, so I feel like I'm going to put this out there to every person. It's because it's perceptual and it's also based on our frequency. To you, that's what you make it sense of, and that's what makes sense to you because that's what's in your dynamics. I agree with you because I understand all energies, but some people might not because their energies are different. You know what I mean? They don't have those people show up in their lives. That's not their path or their story. But okay, so Aries guys are that way because they're ruled by Mars. Mars is, again, it's the energy of warrior. It's the energy of the masculine, fighting, anger, rage. It rules over weaponry. It rules over war. And that's the very primal energy of humans. And that's why it rules Aries. That's why Mars is associated with that. And in astrology, this is how we look. As an astrologer, I would look at someone's Mars energy to see how they primarily, like in a primal nature, how they function out here, how they assert themselves. And some people might have it in the opposite sign of Aries, which is Libra, and that makes it debilitated because why? Libra is ruled by Venus. It's ruled by a woman energy that's more about harmony and peace. And
I'm also a Virgo cusp, and I'm a Libra, so there's plenty of. I'm basically a woman.
You're not. Stop it. What's your Mars sign again? I forgot.
I don't know. You have my chart. I haven't looked at it. So we got those out of the way. So let's start defining things that people hear in charts, but they don't know. So you have a list, right? Out of the ones that I came up with.
Yeah, in my head.
Okay. All right. How about I call them out? So
Okay, go ahead.
what? First of all, explain what Algol is.
Okay, so Algo is a demon star, as they like to say it. It is representative of the energy of Medusa, the story of Medusa. It's about beheading. That's the energy. It rules over alcohol. It rules over sometimes drugs and addictions, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's the energy of like the lower vibrational stuff that we encounter here on Earth. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. I believe Algol.
It's in Batman Begins, right? The Christian Bale movie.
Yeah.
This is why the bad guy, and actually it's in the books too. His name was Ra's al Ghul because he was the bad guy.
And that's in the sign of Taurus.
Fixed, right? It's fixed in Taurus.
It's fixed in Taurus, exactly. It doesn't move. It stays at that point. If I'm correct, I think it's 26 degrees of Taurus. So, which if you were to, so degrees also matter in astrology. So if you look at 26 degrees, that is a Taurus degree anyways. So it's like a double fixed energy. But so that energy can be, if people have that strong in their chart, they can deal with things of that nature a lot more than other people. And so I think, and the reason why it's called Algo is because it's an Arabic word, correct?
Yes.
And they assign that to alcohol, which is why the word alcohol comes, it derives from that word, alcohol.
It's actually Al-Kul, which means
Al-Kul, there you go.
Al-Kul, the original word Al-Kul, which goes to Algol. And there's other astrology that's Arabic too. The ostrich, for example, it's the two ostriches in astrology. It's called Al-Thaliman, which means two ostriches in Arabic. But yeah, no. What was I going to say? No, continue. Please continue.
That's really all I got to say about Algo. It's just the point in Taurus that, if it's conjunct someone's sun, I believe Hitler might have had this conjunct his sun or something like that, or conjunct his rising, and it made him the way that he was. He was all about, this warlike, energy or whatnot. So, yeah. Okay. Oh, we were talking about why Aries and Mars is fake, or why Aries men are the way they are. Okay, right. So and then you said Taurus women, and who else?
Scorpio women. Sorry.
Okay, so let's talk about Scorpio women. So Scorpio is ruled already by Mars as well, just like Aries. It's their sister signs, but it is an ancient ruler because now we assign Pluto to it. In my practice, I use both. They're very important. In order to do astrology, I think proficiently, you need to incorporate the past. All of that matters. How can we understand the future or the moment if we don't understand the past? You know what I mean? So bringing in Mars, it rules Scorpio. So Scorpio women, because that's also a fixed sign, they don't like change. And so they're very fixed and very stern about what they believe in. And being that it's Mars, again, it's very passionate because Mars rules passion as well. It also rules sex. So that, Scorpio is very sexually driven. So is Aries men. So can Aries women be. But again, it's very the primal energy. But in Scorpio, it's more so the primal of those emotions. Like think about like boiling hot water. It's that boiling. So it makes Scorpio women be extremely like deep rooted, and that the still waters run deep. That's how I like to describe Scorpio women. I am a Scorpio woman. This is why I'm kind of laughing about it as I'm talking about it.
Okay. All right. Cool. So you were just talking about. We're going to go back to defining a couple words in a minute, but I had a question. You were talking about how you need the past as well to identify. In fact, you've told me in previous interviews that you look at your past life when you do a chart before you go into the first house. Most people would think you'd start with 1, then go to 2, 3, 4, 5. You start at 12.
Everybody has their own little methods. Some people start with the sun, moon, rising. There are systems. There's so many different systems in astrology. Astrology is not just astrology. Astrology would be the genre, and then you have so many different variations of how to do these charts or interpret the information. It's a form of divination using numbers and sequences. However, there are systems I follow, but I do a little bit of my own style, which I think is appropriate for most astrologers. You got to put your energy mix into it. So for me, I'm also an intuitive psychic. So I also don't just look at the abstract aspects of it. I tune in on into it on a spiritual level. So this helps me to really understand that 12th house. And I start there because if the rising is the wheel, right, of a ship, and we look at a chart as a ship, before you set sail, you got to make sure all of the stuff is in order because you don't want to have accidents or anything down the road. So I look at the 12th house so that we can look at where you started from into the all the way, and you get all the stuff in order back to that, that wheel, which is the rising sign. And that's how I tend to help people take sail and take power and order of their lives, because you can't, it's good to know your vibration now, but how do you know how to put out there what needs to be put out there if you don't know where you're coming from and what your lessons are, what your purpose is? You know what I mean? So I really do believe deeply in like anything that has to do with like Akashic records, hypnosis, 12th house energy, really deep diving into not just your childhood, but your other lifetimes. I believe in reincarnation. So
Correct. Right. So you brought this up to me a little while ago, but I want you to explain to someone, why is it so important when you're an astrologer? And I know Santos Bonacci taught you this, and I put you on Santos, and I teach for Santos, and he's a great guy.
I know I can't do a podcast with him. I'm just trying to build myself up to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. You're gonna have to get like a Demerol shot or something. I don't know what you're gonna need to.
Yeah,
so
I'm so excited.
Why is it so important to be? Why is it? Oh, how do I ask this question without offending someone? Why are you a better astrologer if you're a vegetarian?
Ooh, this is going to offend so many people. Why do you want to get political on me? Shit. All right. I am not here to offend anybody. Everybody is allowed to believe what they want to believe. But what I believe, and what Santos Bonacci believes, and a couple different astrologers out there, if we're talking about energy, we're talking about vibrational energy, right? If you want to be tapped in, if you want to read from the best form, especially if you're using energy, psychic, deep diving, whatever the case, you need to be completely balanced so that the pineal gland is open, so it's all about rising that kundalini up your spine, the chakras. If you're eating meat, you're not able to do that. You're literally acidic. You're bringing your chakras into a level that they are not vibrating where they need to be vibrating at, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, how can you gain the wisdom that you need to gain? So, and that's no offense to those out there that might do more trivial, superficial reading of astrology. That's okay. That's fine. But if I'm trying to tap into spirit, I need to respect the what I call the laws of nature. And to me, you don't eat flesh, Animal is still flesh.
Well, they don't know this yet. My listeners don't know this yet. But for the men that are listening, for your chrism to rise, you can't be shooting a load every day. You have to keep it in. That's the way that you rise.
That's what's that tantric. That's where you get into tantric sex and really learning how to harness, that energy as well. Yeah, and that's even.
I don't know if that works for a woman too, but for a guy, it's basically. It's like filling your energy bar up and then you deplete yourself. That's what it basically is. Like it's your life force.
The more that you do that, I believe it's tied into with aging and all those other things that we don't understand.
More than that too, because it's an immediate dopamine release, and then eventually you get used to it.
Now addictions come into play, and so on and so forth. Yeah. I'm a deep Scorpio 8th house, so I know all about the sexual addictions and so on and so forth.
So okay, let's jump into this question. Another Santos thing, I sent Santos one of your readings, your best reading that you sent me. I was like, send me your best shit, Priscilla, and not mine. So you did, and I sent it to him, and he said it was great. He said it was done the right way with tropical. Can you explain the difference between tropical and sidereal and Vedic are the same thing, right? Sidereal and Vedic? They
use the zodiac signs and the constellations in the sky versus us using the ecliptic. So that's what tropical uses. And it's, to me, it makes more sense because this derives from the ancients. This is how it was back then. And they're trying to use real sky. I don't agree with it. Not that I don't, because I can't say that. It makes its sense on its aspects as well when you're looking from that type of astrology. So neither one is like incorrect or correct. They both work in their respects. If that
Well,
makes sense.
I'm part of a couple of sidereal groups. Actually, one in particular, and the one thing they keep saying is that the sign that you're reading is actually the previous sign. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, for them, that's how it works in their system, because they're reading it off the constellations. But in tropical, we're doing it off of the ecliptic, which is would
Right.
keep you still in the same way that it was in previous back in the days. So,
Right.
and you're looking at that more so with tropical. I look at it as more like, personality, energy wise, and sidereal could be more so. I really don't know. I don't want to like talk about, I don't want to put it down. So we're just going to go
okay.
past that because it's too political.
Do you use Ophiuchus at all?
If I'm looking at Vedic stuff to get some understandings on those things, I would, but I don't. If even medical astrology is done with tropical. Like I stick with tropical. It just makes more sense to me.
Well,
I use Placidus system though. Some astrologers use whole sign. I do if I'm generalizing a reading, but when I'm doing personal, I want to use Placidus because I want people to get their specific reading exactly how the sky was.
So Ophiuchus, for people who don't know, is known as the 13th zodiac. And a few years ago, I think it might be 10 at this point, they tried to mainstream it, and people got sick of it. Yeah. They threw it back in their face. Because what happens is when you add the 13th sign, the cross that you make when you connect the solstices and the equinoxes, which is December, March, June, and September 21st, that makes a cross through the zodiac sign. When you add Ophiuchus in there, I believe suddenly Scorpio is only 6 days long and Virgo becomes like a month and a half.
Yeah, and that's because of the way supposedly the Earth is tilted at that point, and the axes or whatever. And it makes sense if you're looking at, again, from the constellation types of reading, you know what I mean? But we're not using that in tropical.
So Ophiuchus is also known as a serpent bearer. And if you look at it, it's a picture of a guy holding a basket up. And there's a snake in it. And the snake's head is facing Scorpio. There's plenty of passages in there. There's a famous passage in the Bible, for example, back to astrotheology, where they're talking about the snake bites the horse's heels and the man falls off. Well, if you look at where Scorpio is, the head of Scorpio is literally facing the feet of the man with the bow and the arrow on the horse, Sagittarius. So the snake would bite the feet and the man would fall off. They're connecting signs. So it makes sense when you do that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But let's get back to this. Let me ask you a question. What is the midheaven?
The midheaven is the point in the sky, the highest point in the sky when you were born. In your chart, it is representative of status, career, your reputation in the world.
But wouldn't that always be Cancer then?
No, absolutely not. It changes for whatever time you were born and what day and year. So, because the wheels, everything's constantly spinning. Everything's constantly in motion.
Right. Okay. Now, can you get into the asteroids a little bit and explain how they,
yes, I want to talk about 4 specific asteroids. We'll get into Chiron and Lilith in a little bit, but I want to talk about the goddess asteroids. They're important, I believe, in astrology. They were the first asteroids discovered, which is why I want to talk about them, because more in the astrology community, everybody pretty much uses them more so than any other asteroid. We have thousands of asteroids in that belt. Okay. And so
for people who don't know, there's an asteroid belt. Basically what we thought happened, what we think happened was there was a planet that basically imploded into a million different little pieces, and it became with how everything
between Mars and Jupiter.
Between Mars and Jupiter, right. Between Mars and Jupiter, there's just a ring of stones.
Mm-hmm. Basically. So originally we thought they were just rocks floating in the sky, but in astrology they play a big role because they're actually dwarf planets, if you want to call it that. But they are goddesses in astrology. So the 4 major ones that they discovered, like I think it's like 1801. I think the first one was Sirius. And then the other 3 came after that, which was Palos, Vesta, and I always do this. What is the other one? Juno. But yeah, so Sirius is, well, let's talk about Palos first. That's one of my favorites. She was birthed from, in the mythology, she was birthed from Jupiter's head. Okay. Which is how it's between, remember, the asteroids are between Mars and Jupiter. So that makes sense. And it was Jupiter's daughter in mythology. Jupiter, I believe, is Zeus in Greek, right? Okay.
Who becomes Hail Zeus,
the king of the gods, right? Because he beats his father or whatever, which is supposedly Kronos, Saturn.
Right.
Which makes sense because Jupiter ruled signs, which would be Pisces and Sagittarius, can tend to be really rebellious people. They just, they're very, Pisces is really boundless, doesn't have really good boundaries, and Sagittarius is very adventurous and, optimistic, and it's careless. It's going to go. It doesn't care what you say. So, Jupiter energy right there. So the asteroid, though, would be the sister. Actually, it's the daughter of Jupiter, but it's the sisters of, I believe, what's that? Pluto, Neptune, and Jupiter? No. Yeah, Jupiter. Okay. So it's the sister to Mars, and Eris and Vesta is the sisters. Pallas was the second asteroid discovered, I think in 1802, something like that. And so what it represents, first of all, the symbol is like a spear over the cross. Okay. And that represents the artisan spinning wheel, which is why she comes from Jupiter, because Jupiter, deals with all that too. And so Sirius rules, in astrology, it rules food. It would rule agriculture, nourishment, your transition from female life to, your young life when your mother is nurturing you into the motherhood. Okay. Which is why they're really important in astrology, because where this is at in your chart can tell a lot about how you nurture yourself and how you were taught to nurture yourself based off of what your mother gave you, those lessons. And it rules over, family and relationships. And then we have Sirius, which again, they're all goddesses, and which is great because in ancient astrology, it was all before we had, the other planets that you're talking about too. We got 9 planets. It was all masculine energy. It was all, that's how astrology was looked at. In fact, I think in ancient times, we only had masculine or male astrologers. There weren't really too many females in those times. And as we evolved, now we see a growth in female astrologers, and asteroids are now also being
not even a growth. You took over.
Yeah, we did. And it's funny because that's when we discovered these around that same time, 1800s, when we discovered, all the asteroids. This is around the time where witching stuff started happening, and let's, burn them at the stake. They're witches. Yeah, and now we're here where we are today. The divine feminine's no, we're going to, learn this stuff. But so we, if we go into Sirius, it's the same thing. Sirius, like I said, it's about motherhood, family, and Sirius would be the goddess of simple things. It represents natural and wholesome, what is good for you. I believe in Roman, it's the goddess of fertility, if I'm correct. And then in Greek, it's known as Demeter. So Demeter was infamous for for the relationships to her daughter Persephone. So I don't know if you know the mythology of that.
Yeah, Persephone with the pomegranate. She spent half her time.
Because she was abducted. She was abducted by Hades, aka Pluto.
6 pomegranate seeds, and she had to spend a month in
yes, because she was tricked. She was tricked because I guess that's food of the underworld, which I find interesting because there was something I learned about pomegranate seeds that I can't remember exactly what it was, but it made a lot of sense on how it decomposes, and it becomes food for something else to evolve from. And so, which is crazy because Sirius is also associated with Scorpio, and Scorpio is about death and transformation. So this is the story of Persephone being in, in the underworld for half of the time of her life, and then the other half of the time she's in the the regular world with her mom, Demeter, which is Sirius, which is why Sirius is representative of motherhood. Funny thing though, I think when Persephone, when she's in the underworld, this is now your fall and your winter seasons. Correct. That's representative of, because it's in the fall when everything starts to die out, and then winter's when everything's dead. So it's really just associates with that type of, those cycles. I wish people would really understand that the mythologies in, the Bible or in all beliefs are really just an energy story. It's really just about the understanding and interpretation of how life exists, how we live, we die, we morph. That's really just what it is.
Right.
So yeah, that's Cirrus. Then we get into, let me see. Oh yeah, you talked about the pomegranate seeds. I love that story. It's the story of creation of the seasons.
Right.
So Sirius is also cycles of loss and return, and your attachments and relationships, your deepest needs, self-care, your priorities, things of that nature. And like, so if we look at it like this, like if moon is your emotional balancing and sun is what energizes us, Sirius would be how you take care of yourself. Okay. And then so we have, besides
And
that,
I just want to ask an obvious question, but
go
just
ahead.
if anybody's wondering this, everything, single thing we're talking about, all the planets, all the nodes, everybody has them. They're just different in order, right?
Yep, they're that different signs, different degrees. They have different aspects. Aspects are what are what are touching each other in astrology. So the push and pull between energies of these planets and these asteroids. And so it all, I look at it like this: if we're all energy vibration, it's really the velocity and the speed of how something is interjecting into you, into your soul. And so it's crazy because we really do have all of these fragments in us. And if people understood this, they would better know how to control their energy, work with things, work instead of working against life. Because we're just taught this whole, you work, you go to school, you're gonna die, save your, have a 401k, and that's it. Like, and you die, and we're going to heaven and hell. Like, what?
Still stupid.
It is really stupid.
So, what about the North and South node? What do they represent?
Okay, so the North node and the South node are the moon points, how it orbits the Earth. And so these points in astrology represent, South node is where you're coming from, the point of where you were in your past life. And the North node is the direction of life that you're going while you're alive in this incantation. I also, because I'm still learning about past lives and things like that, how to tie it in. But I really think the North node also points in the direction of your next life. So, once I can like get some information to kind of corroborate that, I can deep dive into that more. But yeah, so these are points in your chart. They're not planets, they're not asteroids, they're not anything like that. They're just nodal points of the Earth's axes and how they go around, how they represent the moon or whatever. And my thing keeps popping up. I don't know if you see it over there. It's freaking annoying. I keep getting pop-ups.
Yeah.
But so these, again, they represent your direction of life and where you're coming from. Now, South node also represents your talents, your inherited gifts. They are comfortable points. So a lot of people in society, when they're not woke or they're not deep diving into this stuff, they're operating a lot out of their South node points. They're comfortable. So the goal in astrology is to get us to move towards the North node point, because this is the uncomfortable, stepping out of the comfort zone to really integrate these areas of your life that you need to evolve. So the North node is really the point of evolution for you in your chart, and everybody's is different again. So
right. So for people who don't understand how this can be used, okay, now given there are people on my channel that probably think what I do and what you do is bullshit, and that's fine.
and demonic witchcraft.
I appreciate you commenting. It helps the algorithm. I appreciate the views. Really do, and I hope it opens your mind up sometimes. But for people who want to know why get a reading, it's not so much to tell the future. That's not what it's for at all. What, as JP Morgan.
I mean, that is an idea. It can be used for that because there's so many ways the system can be used. It's a divination tool. You can do all types of things with charts. However, the way that most of us astrologers approach it, for me, it's a healing mechanism. I'm trying to help people learn themselves, understand their energies, how to work with it, understand aspects of themselves that they didn't even realize they had, and really teach them and to the understanding of why they went through certain things. And how to make sense of it. So it's really, and okay, so that's like just basic like natal astrology. And then you have like transits. Transits are so important. This is how the planets currently are affecting your birthright energy. If you can use that as a tool to guide you, in respects to like obviously not obsessing over it and stuff, but this is a good way to really help you along on your path. So it's not anything. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you're manipulating things. And, we are given these tools as gifts from the gods or the energy or whatever it is that, helped us all be here. And we shouldn't like look at it the way that we've been taught to look at it, because it's not
Right.
an evil thing. What makes it evil is the intent of someone's energy. If you have the intent to do something evil, that's what you're going to do. You know what I
Right.
mean? So that's
Someone like you who would, let's say, I have people on my YouTube or people watching me on like Leak Project or like all
right.
these different podcasts that I do, so many, and they'll reach out to me and they'll be like, can I reach out to, I mean, like I must have sent you like 20, 30 people so far to do readings for, and some of them have children and they want their readings, and it's a way to understand your child so
Hell,
that you can
hell
handle
yeah,
them.
because every child needs to be raised according to their energy, not according to a system. One shoe does not fit all. That's not going to work. Everybody is unique and so different in their own respects according to, if you look at it like this, we all have a fingerprint and none of our fingerprint matches, correct? So this is what a chart is. A chart is, this energy is your fingerprint of your soul print of who you are here. And it's very distinct. Even twins don't have the same print. They're born, so there's either seconds or minutes apart. So it will change because some things move faster in the sky than the others. Some planets. So again, like if this is really just to help you out while you're alive. You know what I mean? It's a good thing. You want to know yourself. What does the Bible say? Shew thyself approved by studying. And I think most of our mythology and religious texts are really talking about learning about yourself, but we don't really interpret it that way, and that's what it's trying to tell us.
So if somebody wanted to get a reading done, okay, I'm going to have you plug in a minute, but if somebody wanted to get a reading done, what is the information you need from them?
Time of birth. That's the most important thing. I shy away from readings that don't have the time of birth because I like everything to be concise. When you have that time of birth, I can know your rising. And that is so important because it tells me where the planets land in your chart. We have house systems. There's 12. They all govern an area of life. And I can't see that if you don't have your time, because it's just going to be wherever. It's going to be in the right sign, but I don't know what house it's in. So time of birth is so important. Your location of birth, where you were born. It doesn't have to be a hospital or any of that. Just city and state. And you need your birthday, obviously, with the year. So those things all really are the three major things that break it down to a very unique system of who you are.
Yeah. My wife's inside right now reading what you just
listening.
read her. Oh. And she's intrigued. She's interested.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Honestly, guys, Priscilla is the best. I've talked to so.
He always says that, and I'm just like, there's so many good astrologers out there that I follow. People that really are like have sparked my mind. So I don't want to say that, but thank you.
You know what it is? You know what it is? You're young. You're young. You're not 50, 60. You're not done learning. No. I'm 38. You're what, 3 years younger than me?
I'm 35. I'll be 36 next month.
Yeah, you're 36. I'm turning 39. You're not even close to being done, and you're this good already. Like, you really have a talent. If anybody's interested in finding you or setting up a reading, you can always, guys, reach out to me on social media. Or my email, into the rabbit hole series at gmail.com. But Priscilla, plug your information.
Okay, so I am at spiritcoachingastrology.com. And then you can reach me on my Twitter or my Instagram. My Instagram is also the same, spiritcoachingastrology.com. And I think my Twitter is too. And on my website, I have QR codes that can take you directly to that if you want to, message me on there. You can book your readings that way. I'm also, hopefully here in like 2 or 3 weeks, launching an app for iOS and for Android so that you guys can... Oh, we're frozen. Micah, where are you? There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we're back. I'm like talking and I realized you weren't moving.
I know, you stopped moving and I stopped moving. Plug your stuff one more time.
Okay, so spiritcoachingastrology.com. If my QR, I have QR codes on my website to go directly to my Instagram or my Twitter. And then in about 2 or 3 weeks here, I was saying that I am launching an app for iOS and Android so that you can actually directly go to my website through an app, read blogs, watch the podcasts, read updates, so on and so forth. And those messages on my website will go directly to my phone. So you'll be able to engage with me on a more personal level. So I'm so excited for that. I've worked really hard.
I know you did. I appreciate it. I'm going to be doing other interviews with you.
I hope I didn't talk fast. I'm like, we just
No.
threw so much information out there and it wasn't like in order.
Okay. So we do. So beautiful. Awesome. So guys, reach out to her. Listen, she is so reasonably priced. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Go to a bar one night and spend it on Sambuca? Or do you wanna like learn your true nature?
Yeah, astrology is so vast, guys. It really does. You can do so much with it. I'm learning so many different things. I'm learning how to manifest money out of it, how to get on the right path, how to, build my confidence. It's such an amazing tool for so much healing. Astrology has a lot of psychology involved in it. That's where psychology derives from. So I really do recommend everybody start getting, even if it's not me you work with, get into it. Like learn astrology, learn your charts. This is really the wave. You're in the age of Aquarius, man. This is it.
She's someone who is always learning. She's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
You don't want to deal, like I always say this myself. I go, I'm just some dude from Long Island that's figured some shit out. I am always learning, and the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know fuck.
That's how I feel.
And you want someone like that because they hate not knowing things, and they will work the hardest. You don't want some 60-year-old lady with tarot cards who has everything figured out.
And they're just real traditional and very superficial, like methodical. That's cool, but I like to keep an open energy for constantly learning because things are constantly evolving and changing. Nothing stays the same. So it's very important that you just grow with it.
Awesome. Priscilla, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having
me. I'm going to have this up tomorrow.
No, God. Yay. You know what? In time, I am about to have a full moon in my first house in Pisces conjunct Jupiter. So this is about to be really big for me. It's expansion.
Fantastic. I'll text you a little later, all right?
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep.